Dr. Michael Sharp, who has written a book, The Book of Life, who is telling us about the Ascension. And welcome back, Michael.
Thank you.
Gosh, we made it. Apologize for all the trouble in the beginning here. Everybody had trouble with phones and stuff, but here we are. We got an hour, and let's go. Let's talk Ascension talk. MichaelSharp.org is the website. And if you have any questions about the Ascension, Mike's been on a couple of times now, so you might have had some stuff. They got the 800 number given. Thanks a lot, MJ, by the way, for that intro. And Michael, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm trying to stay sane in the enhanced energies, I guess.
Is that what's going on?
Yeah, I think, I was listening to you talk about what's been happening in your life the last 4 months, and I imagine, everybody else is feeling this way right now. And I want to give everybody that's listening the same advice that I'm getting from the people that I consult, and that is it's very important to ground at this point in the Ascension, and that means you take deep breaths, pause, visualize, a line of energy grounding right into the earth and right into the core, and you really just have to hold on to your physical body at this point, because if you don't, things are getting so energetically excited right now that there's a possibility that you'll lose control of things and just kind of flop off of this earth.
Well, yeah, you know what? I believe it with all my heart, because it's like, I like the way, well, I don't like, but I like the way you describe it. Just lose, I could just fly out of my body. Yeah,
we're all getting a lot, even those of us who aren't really, haven't really started moving forward or dealing with everything, even they're starting to experience this, this accelerated manifestation and this power to just muck with things in our lives, and it can get pretty chaotic. And if you don't pause and ground and just make sure that you're bringing yourself down into your body and being in the world so that you can have control over the things, and otherwise it can get out of hand pretty fast, I think.
What would be an example that you can mention about getting out of hand? What would be a symptom, if I can use that term, of the Ascension?
Well, what's going to happen with everybody with the Ascension is they're going to manifest their issues and their fears and their blockages and their loves and their hates, and everything that they've got swirling around in their mind is going to become something that's going to manifest in the physical world. The farther we get along in the Ascension process, the easier that's going to become and the more fluid it's going to be. So, if you're not grounding and if you're not kind of taking control of things, and if you're not saying, look, stop, whoa, things really can get out of hand, you can kind of be the victim of your own enhanced spiritual power, which was the problem with Atlantis, right? When we got to this point, things got really out of hand, and it just kind of spiraled into chaos. And I think you can kind of see, those of you who are at this point can kind of see that happening in your lives now, where things are, it leaves you breathless. The kind of, good things are happening, bad things are happening, everything's happening all at once.
Well, I guess that could lead us into the first question is, when you've been on before, you've talked about being so sure that the Ascension will happen at this time. It's a done deal. It's just a matter of time. How are you so sure compared to last time with Atlantis?
Well, actually, last time was in Atlantis. We've tried several kind of mini attempts between the major three attempts. The major three attempts, they're marked by kind of getting past the second stage of activation, where it's very much like lighting a rocket. You light your first stage and you kind of get a slow takeoff. You light the second stage, and when you light that second stage, it's done after that. You can't stop it, right? The only way to do is to end it catastrophically. So Atlantis, Lemuria, and this point where we're at right now in the unfolding, I guess people are starting to call this Terra. We've only been at this point 3 times, but we've been to previous points, 100 times, 1,000 times in the past 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years. There's always been messengers who have come and said, okay, time's now. We're going to ascend this planet, and there's always been these little starts, but they've been more like testing or little experiments to see if we have this condition right and that condition right. If we get to this point, are we going to spiral into chaos? Are the elites going to be able to get control? There's 1,000 things that we got to think about before we take the next step, which we've already taken, which is to light the second stage and to just start riding it forward. So are you sure it's going to work because we've got the second stage, we've gotten to it, it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't going to work, or? Well, we knew back in 1987 that it was going to work, that it was a done deal at that point. And I mean, to put this at the highest spiritual level, we just say that in 1987 we knew that there was enough light on this planet to carry us forward when we started the process, and that means there was enough light workers, there was enough truth, there was enough technical infrastructure, there was enough, to use the phrase of the political elites, checks and balances, so that when we lit the fire, right, when we hit the second stage, that things would be okay. So we knew back then that it was going to be okay.
Well, who's we?
Well, we, as in everybody, right? Everybody knows this at some level.
Well, I tell you, I've had some doubts. It doesn't look real good out there at the moment. You know, and there's wars and all kinds of stuff, and calamity, and people are talking about, you know, all kinds of things happen, and destructions and pollution and running out of energy, and it's, you know, a lot of messy talk.
It looks like the end is near, right? But that's the end of the old world, and there's a new world that's emerging kind of between the cracks here, and you can see this in a new economy that's emerging, and in a new way of doing things. And it's, I mean, the infrastructure is already there for this new world to emerge, and we just got to wait for the old world to end, right? And the old world's going to, when that old world ends, there's going to be economic collapse. There's going to be the resolution of dualities. You know, these wars that are going on. These are dualities that have raged in people's consciousness for thousands of years. You know, the ethnic fighting and the good and evil, all that other nonsense. It's been there forever, and now you're seeing it blow up, right? But it's not going to get to the point where this is going to cause us, where it's going to stop the ascension, because we have all the checks and balances in place, and B, there's a lot of people looking in who just won't let that happen.
Well, no, I will say that I can't. What I'm going to say is I can't prove how I feel, you know, because people feel a lot of things. But when I hear truth, I get this little vibration feeling. I can't explain it. And
there's a way to call that you're resonating.
Okay. Well, I get this little thing, and it tells me, like, you know, whether I like it or not, there's something true there. And sometimes I get part and something. And one of the things you said that resonated was that all these things that are happening, the oil, the wars, and all that, is part of the old dying. It's going to kill itself, if you will, and the survivors will move on.
That's right. The old energies are resolving themselves.
Because karmically, I would think it would be good, for lack of a better term, that you would die by your own sword rather than someone else's. And if you have a system that has been harming and hurting people, that system you created would then implode on you. Right.
Well, I mean, it's not like yeah, you're right in a way, except that the people who are experiencing dualities, I mean, these are spiritual beings who know what's going on at a high level, and who are working in these bodies that are experiencing these raging energies. So you have a lot of very loving, very good spirits out there on both sides of the fence who are trying desperately to find some way to release these dualities, right? So there isn't any sense where it's the souls themselves who need to exit this earth. It's can these souls, in working in these bodies and working in these areas of the world where there are these major dualities, or these really ancient energies, can they resolve these things without the kind of mass exits that were prophesied by Nostradamus and other people, right? So this is the iffy thing right now. We're still kind of working on that. We're not sure what's going to happen. We know that the dualities are going to resolve, but how many people are going to have to die for that is still an open question.
Okay, so when you say the ascension is going to happen, is essentially we are going to send, the planet's going to send, and a number of people will ascend with it. But a large number, I would assume, or perhaps a majority, or at least a very significant portion of people will die in this process.
Well, no. I mean, I would say no, that a significant portion of people are not going to die in this process. That there's going to be unfortunate exits, but it's not going to be hugely catastrophic, like the kind of thing that you expect in some of the doomsday prophecies that you hear.
Oh, okay.
There's going to be the deaths in Iraq every day, and people are suffering there. But those there's a great push, a great. I mean, I could say people are praying, right? But there's this great effort to bring light to that situation and to make it resolve without unnecessary deaths. And at this point, all deaths are unnecessary, right? There isn't any need for anybody to exit this as part of resolving their karmic contract or any of that other stuff. It's just the inability to resolve these dualities given the present conditions. And then there's a lot of things that are making it hard for people, like the rulers in this world are waving their swords at each other and throwing their armies around and getting everybody mad, and all that stuff is not helping, right? But then it's not supposed to. They don't want to see these dualities resolved. But.
All right, so it's more like the people are going to die because they go, yeah, it's just, I bought this ticket and it was supposed to be this, and I don't think I like to go through with this, and I'm just going to be out of here like that.
It's going to be. It's going to be. There's in some cases people are going to say, well, I can't deal with my fears, and it would be just easier for me to come back. And that's for immortal spirit. That's a relatively easy decision to make. Your spirit knows that it's just a transition from body to body. It's your body that's so afraid of death. It's not your spirit. So it's an easy transition to make, and it's an easy decision to make. But at the same time, that's a very difficult decision because you leave behind loved ones, and you leave behind family, and you leave behind what you've already worked for on this earth. And nobody really wants to do that, right? So, and again, that's not necessary. Somebody who's experiencing a lot of fear can be helped forward just by talking to the right person at the right time. Somebody can be right on the verge of taking their own life, and a light worker can come up to that person and say, look, you can get control of this. It's okay. We understand what's happening. Here's why. And, people can hear the truth, and this can lift a huge energetic burden off of them and give them the strength to move forward, right? So, when I say that any deaths that happen now are unnecessary, it's because there's millions of light workers here, and they're all ready to reach out and help people who are going through this problem.
All right. Well, that's a. Go ahead.
Sorry, and the other question here, the other issue is what the wars and stuff like that. And again, there's a lot of very strong spiritual entities working in body and out of body and watching the situation and trying to clear all this duality, so that if it wasn't for the elites mucking around with things, the people would resolve the dualities. There wouldn't be Americans against Arabs right now and Jew against Palestinian. The people would resolve these if it wasn't for the rulers who keep doing crazy things to people. It's obscene what's happening out there right now, politically and socially. If it wasn't for that influence, again, all the deaths that would be happening now wouldn't be necessary. So we're working against a number of things, and one of the things is the real panic on the part of the rulers of this earth. The people really high up. I'm not talking about the politicians here, but the people who control the politicians. That they're going to lose control, and they're getting quite desperate, and I think you can see that if you look at the political situation and look at just how crazy their actions are becoming. But there is starting to be an era of desperation there.
Yeah, and you're here to say that it's going to get a little hairy, but it's going to work out okay.
Yeah, that's right, and it's going to work out okay. And we want to send to anybody that is in the path of a bomb or a bullet that's unnecessary. These people have made a sacrifice for us. It wasn't. They agreed to incarnate in these areas, right? But they never agreed to take that bullet. So, we send them love and we thank them for their sacrifice. And as they go, some of that duality and that negativity is taken with them when they go. So.
Pam, we're not going to run out of people to take all that negative, though.
No, we won't.
Okay, well, you're basically. I want what you're saying is true, and I do get that little feeling a little bit, but it might be my own fear. It might be my own desperation. It might be my losing. I don't want to say losing faith, but just tired.
Well, we've been doing this for a long time, so there is a sense where we're all weary with this, and up until now it's been this back and forth thing between light and dark, and I don't mean good and evil, I just mean, this energy control thing that happens where it's been 51% dark and then 49% light, and then there's been a little tussle, and then it's 51% light and 49% dark, and almost all of the listeners will be able to see this, politically and socially in the past 100 years, that there's always this back and forth. So somebody like me comes along and says, well, this is it, this is the time. We kind of look back at that and we go, well, there's always been this balance, right? What's different about that now? And the only thing that I can say to you is, well, the light's always been playing with both hands tied behind its back and wearing a 100-kilogram weight across its belly, right? The sides have never been evenly matched. It's just been this game that we've played. The elites are continuing, or the ruling people are continuing on on their path of destruction because they think that there's this balance. But there isn't. There was never any balance. There isn't any sense in which the dark forces can take on the forces of spirit here. It's not possible. When we've decided we're going to go, that's it. Right? Could you hold a candle in a dark room? One candle can light up a dark room. That's the kind of power we're talking about here. And we're not talking about a little candle. We're talking about major, I don't know what the technical term is for floodlights. Each one of us is that kind of floodlight that we can illuminate an entire country with our energy. So we're talking about a lot of power that's being unleashed right now.
Wow. But there's light at the tunnel, and hopefully you will tell us some of that light so when we see all this darkness out here, we can go, oh boy. Well, Michael Sharp says...
Well, don't say what Michael Sharp says. Look in your life, because now there's going to be you're going to be seeing the second wave now. People around you are going to be waking up. The Mount St. Helens is a big trigger, that kind of volcano thing. There's earthquakes that are going to happen in California. They're a trigger. The hurricanes in Florida. These are all kind of they're little energy. They send little energy packets through us. They're part of our heritage when we lived in Lemuria, and they're all kind of wake-up calls. But if you look around you, you'll see people who never had any kind of spiritual sensibility before suddenly starting to ask, well, what's going on? Is there anything else? What's happening, right? And, I get emails all the time from people, I got this one from this lady who left her husband, and then 2 weeks later, her husband, who's a physician, a doctor, these doctors are materialists, a lot of them don't have any spiritual beliefs, who basically changed his entire life around and left his practice to go and do Ascension-related stuff. Well, not really Ascension-related stuff, but now, he buys the books and he's talking to people about these, to colleagues who you would have thought, 2 years ago would never have talked about this kind of stuff. So you can see this in your life if you look, right? And if you look in your life, you can see the manifestation mess and all your increased power and the ways things are happening around you, and you can see evidence for this all around you. So look at your own life, right?
You know what? I see the manifestation of the mess. I see it quite well. Maybe you can. Maybe there's someone out there other than just me who would like to know how to focus in on the power you're talking about. I feel rather powerless at times because I got all this stuff going on, and I guess if you measure it, I'm juggling 500 plates where normally I would juggle 100 or 10. So
I'll put them down. You've got control over this. It's my trademark phrase or whatever is as above in consciousness, so below in matter, right? If you've got it in your head that you need to handle these 500 things, then you're going to handle these 500 things. If you're not paying attention to what's coming up in your consciousness, then all these things are going to be coming up. But as soon as you say, stop, all right, I need a breather, and you can ask your guides for help here because they're also helping you forward in this process. And you say, and you just take control. Say, stop. Things will stop. It'll stop on a dime for you, right? Because you've got that control. Mm-hmm. People have been trained, though, to believe that they don't have any control and that everything happens to them and that God does things to them and that, their bosses do things to them and that fate does things to them. But it's not like that. We have total control, and that's what people have to understand, right? As soon as you get that into your head, then things will start to calm down almost immediately.
Well, you got a point there. Perhaps maybe all these plates are to get me to realize that I can say no because I just never did.
That's right. Yeah. And a lot of us have that attitude. I did too, right? That were it's the slave mentality that we brought up with. That somebody asks us to do something, we've got to do it. Well, we don't. Somebody asks us to do something, we can say no.
All right. Well, it's a good. I'm going to do that tonight. Honestly, I'm going to say to you, and the next time we get together, or I'll give you a call or something. I'm going to say tonight, I want to stop. I need some breaks. I need some things to slow down, and I need some grounding and some other things to come in and help that to be to handle being alive on the planet Earth at the moment.
Grounding is very important.
You know what? Could you do me a favor? Somebody else there might like that. What is grounding? Can you tell me what that means?
There's two senses in which we talk about grounding, and they're not normally distinguished in people's minds. Nobody really talks about it this way. But there's two senses in which you have to ground. One of them is to ground your consciousness in your body. Now, everybody's heard that we are not physical beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience, and that's very true. We are primarily conscious. Well, we're only consciousness, and when we enter the body, it's like funneling down through a big dark tunnel and opening your eyes up inside a puppet. You open your eyes and there you are in the physical world. So grounding, taking deep breaths like I'm doing now to try and ground here, means pulling your consciousness down and saying, okay, I want to be in the physical body. I want to be here. I want to do things, and I want to have control. And if you're not, especially now during this particular period, if you're not saying that, then there's this danger where you kind of start pulling out of the physical body and pulling out. And the more you do that, the more things around you are going to start to collapse. At some point your body is going to become diseased, and it's just going to die. So it's very important that you maintain your spiritual consciousness in your body, right, at this point in time. So that's one sense in grounding. The other sense where we talk about grounding has to do with your body being a power tool. And in the book that I'm just completing, Dossier the Ascension, I call the body a power tool. It's like Spirit's power tool of creation. When it's not plugged in, it's like a circular saw that's not plugged in. You can cut wood with it, but it takes a lot of effort. When you ground it and plug it in, all of a sudden you get the power of creation at your hands, and things start buzzing around you, and you're able to do just about anything that you want to do. So there's that sense in grounding where when you get to the point where you're ready to plug your body in, right, then you're going to ground into Gaia, just like you plug in an electrical appliance and it's got a positive and negative, and it's not plugged in until you ground the appliance and the energy's got some place to flow. So those are the two senses in grounding. They're both important, right? But for us now, grounding in our physical body is the key thing that we got to practice sometime.
And that grounding is not unlike putting a stake in the ground for a lightning rod. It's for our spiritual energy.
Well, it's so that our consciousness is in the body. Because the body's not a natural place for us, right? It takes a lot of effort to come down here and to exist in this world. So we just kind of.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to pop in, but I just had like a visuality where the reason why you're vibrating at a certain frequency, and it's like almost the spirit could pop out of the body because of the vibrating, and the body is a slower vibration, so it's almost like if you shake something up, it'll fall out of the box.
That's right.
Is that kind of okay? Well, see, I can understand that. And then by meditating and by picturing grounding and all that, you're keeping hold of your body. You're focusing your consciousness to holding on to your body instead of just popping out.
That's right.
And then disease can come from too high a vibration?
Well, no, disease happens when your consciousness is not in your body. There's lots of reasons for diseases, but one of the reasons is that your body just starts to melt away, right? You get cancers and all this other stuff. Think about when you die. What does the body immediately start to do? When spirit hasn't encased the body, when your consciousness isn't there, the body starts to melt. It turns into a putrefied mess, right? There's no sense in which physical life can continue without the breath of spirit, without the touch of your consciousness. So at this point in time, where there's all this stuff is going, and we're kind of being pulled out of our body, or we're losing our ability to ground, or we need to practice it better, I guess would be a better way to put it.
That's a very interesting point. That fits in there. There's something there really that by not being centered in the body can cause a lot of the problems.
Your energy keeps your life together. Right, your consciousness keeps everything around you the way it is, and as soon as you start to withdraw that consciousness, things start to collapse. So it's important to do two things. You maintain grounded, and you get control of things because of the energetic conditions that we've got happening here.
I think that, at least for me, that's a very important key. I think I just got a little help here. That's a very important part, because a lot of times I tend to lose sight of the grounded aspects and deal more in abstracts.
Well, yeah, I'm like that too. I like to float around in the astral planes, but and that's fine to do that. But you still got to put enough energy into keeping the physical world around you and your physical body, which is part of that, going. And a lot of readers, listeners can help themselves if they just make the shift and quit identifying with the physical body like it is their identity, and start to identify with their spiritual consciousness, which is their identity, right? Once you make that shift in perspective, then a lot of pieces of the puzzle start to fit together, and you're going to start to be able to answer things for yourself, because you'll have the right orientation, right? It's the wrong orientation to think that you're your physical body. That's just not true. Your body's just a vehicle.
But is the body kind of created by spirit to serve a purpose?
Well, yeah, but the body is a power tool, right? The body is our way to create the physical universe from the inside. There's lots that we can do from the outside. You know, we can make trees and beautiful flowers and stuff like that, but there's a lot that we're going to be able to do that we can do from the inside with the physical body. We can manipulate the natural world, and we can do things with our creation that are not possible. And when you put the two together, right, you basically have no limitations at that point. You can do whatever you want with anything you want. And that's the point. That's the whole point of this ascension, is to bring these two things together so that we can create spiritually with our consciousness at the same time that we're creating from the inside, right, with technology and with our kundalini energies. There's a magical sense of manifestation.
So no, why can't I take, that being all true, and I believe it's true, but why can't I then take and say, look, you know, I need some physical stuff. I don't know, be it equipment, be it food, be it money, be it anything, and just make it, just have it pile up right where you need it. Why can't you just, you know, do that?
Well, the answer to that, there's a political answer to that, and that's that we live in a system that is designed to make us believe that we have to work for that stuff, right? I mean, I want to buy a piano. I have to work 2 years for it, right? There is no sense in which we think that I want a piano, I deserve to have it, you know? So we play this game. We work, you know, and then our bosses take some of our wages, and their bosses in the banks, and there's this big funnel up so that there's very few very wealthy people who are getting wealthy off the back of our labor, because we've been convinced that we need to work in order to survive on this planet, right? You have to work to buy your ticket, and that's just not true. As soon as, and this is a change that's coming in a couple of years, right? As soon as enough people start to realize that, well, we deserve whatever it is we want. This is a universe of prosperity. God is a God of love. We are part of that God, and we deserve everything that we want. And there's no questions asked ever. Then this system is going to really, it's just going to fall away, and we are going to get these things.
All right. So what if an individual in this system turns around and says, all right, I'm going to do it this way. I want, you know, the piano, and then just goes to bed and believes that tomorrow there's going to be a piano in the front room. I mean, can you do that, or is there something more complicated to it?
Well, in the case of a piano, what's going to probably happen is that a call would go out to spirits, right? And then, you know, my piano exists in these people's house that I don't even know, and, you know, their daughter is finished with the piano now, and so there's a piano there, and it's in my price range, and I can afford it. And now, so the trick is to get it to me, right? And there's this thing that goes on at the spiritual level, and there's this thing that goes on at the spiritual level to get that piano to your door. So, yeah, you're not going to go out, not right away anyway, and manifest your piano so that's sitting there in your room, right? There's going to be a process. But as the ascension proceeds, that process is going to become concatenated or shorter and shorter. So instead of waiting for a year, right, you're going to only have to wait for a month or 2 weeks. Or, you know, probably you'll just have enough money in your bank account that you'll just go buy it right then and there when you want it. Because that's the long-term goal here, is that everybody's got enough energy available to them to get whatever it is they want to need, period, in the story.
All right, so let me look at it this way. Then perhaps what happens is, rather than a piano falls out of the sky, and normally it takes 2 years to go to piano, what will happen is you say, you know, I want a piano, and I'm going to leave it up to the spirit to do their part, and then you go on your way, and all of a sudden, synchronistically, you meet up with someone who has a very nice piano that's used, they're moving, and they're selling it cheap. Something like that? Would that be kind of an example?
That's right, but that's the interim one. I mean, eventually, when you're in the physical world and when you want something, I mean, you buy things with money, right? So that's always, when we manifest, money is going to be important. And the reason why I said that there was a political answer to this question is because the system we've got in now funnels our money away from us. You know, I have a decent job, but you know, I can barely ever make ends meet because of the interests and this fee and that fee and everything. It's just a constant drain, and it's designed that way so that you never get ahead, right? But as things move forward, and as the old political systems and the old economic systems, which are based on the extraction of wealth from, I mean, I'm going to keep saying this, from the slave population, you work and they benefit. As those systems disappear, then money is not going to be an issue for us. There'll be lots of energy to go around. And all money is the manifestation, physical manifestation of spiritual energy, with the energy of creation.
So then, one of my plans, taking off from a Gandhian perspective, was we just stop being part of that system. We just literally sit down and say no more.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, but is that overreacting and like a pendulum swinging too far rather than slowing the pendulum down? We're stopping it, and there would be a backlash, or is that really the answer that we should do?
Well, I mean, if everybody got together and tomorrow just said, okay, we don't believe in that system anymore. We really believe in our worth as spiritual beings and that we deserve everything. And we really believe that the system that we're living under is not it's not something that God has given us. I mean, we have this belief that we're here to be punished. We're here because we rejected from Eden. There's a lot of these really insane ideas that keep us believing that we're lesser than God and that we're like cosmic afterthought, right? As soon as we stop believing in that, then yeah, I mean, it is that simple. The old system would just blink out of existence like that. But it takes a while for people to buy into that idea and to start to get over all their self-esteem issues and to start believing that they are in fact worth what I'm saying they are now. So it's going to take some time. But there are people who are doing what you're doing and just stepping out of the system and saying, okay, I don't want to have anything to do with this anymore. And they do that. And that is happening. Other people are like me. I work between two worlds right now. I have a standard job, and then I have the stuff that I do, and I have to balance both. But as time progresses, that old job is going to become less important, and this work is going to take precedence. And that can happen with everybody, right? They'll balance the two, and then eventually, the old world will just become less and less of a draw on them, and the new world will just exist.
And I did get a question here, Michael, if you want me to read it for you.
Sure.
It's from Ron, who writes, ask Michael Sharp to elaborate on why the dark forces keep coming back, or if they never really leave, and would this be only true in my perception of reality?
It's true in our perception of reality because it's part of the collective consciousness, right? It's sorry. Our belief system is based on this duality. You're taught from day one that there's good and there's evil, there's us and there's them, there's right and there's wrong, and God will punish you and reward some others. And so we've got this template in our consciousness that writes this world, right? And then it's that basic template which creates the duality that surrounds us, and that duality includes the dark forces and the light forces and all that other stuff. But as soon as that template is erased, as soon as we change that template, which is what the light workers are here to do, it's what's going on right now. As soon as that template is gone, then as above in consciousness, so below in matter, then that duality is going to disappear. So
it's like if we believe in good and evil, then we are really manifesting evil to fit that mold.
Yeah, but the ironic thing is that if you believe in good and evil, you play both sides almost simultaneously. I mean, we sit there and look at the people being beheaded in Iraq and say evil, and the people in Iraq look at us and go, occupiers, evil. So you play that game of duality. You play both sides, and this is the guilt thing, or the block or the barrier that we have to get over. We have to forgive ourselves for playing the bad side, and give ourselves a pat on the back for playing the good side, and then step out of that and just come back home to the family of spirit where that stuff doesn't exist. We're all just one big happy family. Okay, I may not like some of my family members, but still we're one big happy family, right?
Yeah. I noticed from meeting people around the world, the internet has connected me with a lot of people I would never have met, and one thing I was really amazed at is how much we're the same.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we all basically just want to have, peace, be able to work, take care of family, have some fun, find personal satisfactions in hobbies or creations or whatever, music. That's all you want.
Like I said earlier, it's a political problem right now, and the people of the earth don't want to have any of this, right? It's the rulers of this earth who are continuing this to try and keep their positions of power. So.
Now, I kind of got my little inner fantasy is there are people of Earth, perhaps through something like the internet, get to know one another and kind of organize half spiritual and half mental or whatever the deal is, and say, no, we're not going to do this anymore. We're tired of people killing each other and burning, and it's just dead.
Yeah, well, that's happening. There's lots of the United States is having a real problem calling up soldiers. People are saying that.
Yeah, there's a song I came across. It's called "The Universal Soldier," and in essence, the wars are blamed. They talk about the politicians or the leaders and all that, but they blame the war on the soldiers, because if the soldiers didn't fight, there'd be no war.
Well, but they know that's putting the blame in the wrong place.
Well, I don't mean that like we're sitting over here and we're blaming them for the war, because we're the people. And I take an extension from that and say, you know, comes down to us. If we said no, there wouldn't be the problems, there wouldn't be the armies, there wouldn't be anybody to push any of the buttons, even if it was mechanical. I think we just got to say no.
That's right.
Anyway, we're coming to that end. And Michael, always a pleasure talking to you. In the website, chat room, they're saying, thank you, Mikey, we love your work. Keep it up, and so on, and I agree. And we'll definitely have to have you back on a more sane, if it's possible. Get you in here on time, and appreciate it. And the website is michaelsharp.org. The book is The Book of Life. And once again, Michael, thank you very much for coming on Feet the Fire.
Flop off of this earth.
Well, yeah, you know what? I believe it with all my heart, because it's like, I like the way, well, I don't like, but I like the way you describe it. Just I mean, I could just fly out of my body.
Yeah, we're all getting a lot, even those of us who aren't really, haven't really started moving forward or dealing with everything, even they're starting to experience this, you know, this accelerated manifestation and this power to just muck with things in our lives. And it can get pretty chaotic. And if you don't pause and ground and just make sure that, you know, you're bringing yourself down into your body and being in the world so that you can have control over the things, and otherwise it can get out of hand pretty fast, I think.
What would be an example that you can mention about getting out of hand? I mean, you know, what would be a symptom, if I can use that term, of the Ascension?
Well, I mean, what's going to happen with everybody with the Ascension is they're going to manifest their issues and their fears and their blockages and their loves and their hates, and everything that they've got swirling around in their mind is going to become something that's going to manifest in the physical world. The farther we get along in the Ascension process, the easier that's going to become and the more fluid it's going to be. So, you know, if you're not grounding and if you're not kind of taking control of things and if you're not saying, look, stop, whoa, things really can get...
Well, who's we?
Well, we, as in everybody, right? Everybody knows this at some level.
Well, I tell you, I've had some doubts. It doesn't look real good out there at the moment. You know, and there's wars and all kinds of stuff, and calamity, and people are talking about, you know, all kinds of things happen and destructions and pollution and running out of energy, and it's, you know, a lot of messy talk.
It looks like the end is near, right? But that's the end of the old world, and there's a new world that's emerging kind of between the cracks here, and you can see this in a new economy that's emerging and in a new way of doing things. And it's, I mean, the infrastructure is already there for this new world to emerge, and we just got to wait for the old world to end, right? And the old world's going to, when that old world ends, there's going to be economic collapse. There's going to be the resolution of dualities. You know, these wars that are going on. These are dualities that have raged in people's consciousness for thousands of years. You know, the ethnic fighting and the good and evil, all that other nonsense. It's been there forever, and now you're seeing it blow up, right? But it's not going to get to the point where this is going to cause us, where it's going to stop the Ascension, because we have all the checks and balances in place, and B, there's a lot of people looking in who just won't let that happen.
Dr. Michael Sharp, who has written a book, The Book of Life, who is telling us about the Ascension, and welcome back, Michael.
Thank you.
Gosh, we made it. Apologize for all the trouble in the beginning here. Everybody had trouble with phones and stuff, but here we are. We got an hour, and let's go talk Ascension talk. michaelsharp.org is the website. And if you have any questions about the Ascension, Mike's been on a couple of times now, so you might have had some stuff. They got the 800 number given. Thanks a lot, MJ, by the way, for that intro. And Michael, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm trying to stay sane in the enhanced energies, I guess.
Is that what's going on?
Yeah, I think, I was listening to you talk about what's been happening in your life the last 4 months, and I imagine, everybody else is feeling this way right now. And I want to give everybody that's listening the same advice that I'm getting from the people that I consult, and that is it's very important to ground at this point in the Ascension, and that means you take deep breaths, pause, visualize, a line of energy grounding right into the earth and right into the core, and you really just have to hold on to your physical body at this point, because if you don't, things are getting so energetically excited right now that there's a possibility that you'll lose control of things and just kind of 100 times, 1,000 times in the past 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years. You know, there's always been messengers who have come and said, okay, time's now. We're going to ascend this planet. And there's always been these little starts, but they've been more like testing or little experiments to see if we have this condition right and that condition right. You know, if we get to this point, are we going to spiral into chaos? Are the elites going to be able to get control? There's, you know, 1,000 things that we got to think about before we take the next step, which we've already taken, which is to light the second stage and to just start riding it forward.
So are you sure it's going to work because we've got the second stage, we've gotten to it, it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't going to work, or?
Well, we knew back in 1987 that it was going to work, that it was a done deal at that point. And, I mean, to put this at the highest spiritual level, we just say that in 1987 we knew that there was enough light on this planet to carry us forward when we started the process. And that means there was enough light workers, there was enough truth, there was enough technical infrastructure, there was enough, to use the phrase of the political elites, checks and balances, so that when we lit the fire, right, when we hit the second stage, that things would be okay. So we knew back then that it was going to be okay. On the other hand, you can kind of be the victim of your own enhanced spiritual power, which was the problem with Atlantis, right? When we got to this point, things got really out of hand, and it just kind of spiraled into chaos. And I think you can kind of see, those of you who are at this point can kind of see that happening in your lives now, where things are, I mean, it leaves you breathless. The kind of, you know, good things are happening, bad things are happening, everything's happening all at once.
Well, you know, I guess that could lead us into like the first question is, when you've been on before, you've talked about being so sure that the ascension will happen at this time. It's a done deal. It's just a matter of time. How are you so sure compared to last time with Atlantis?
Well, actually, last time was in Atlantis. We've tried several kind of mini attempts between the major three attempts. The major three attempts, they're marked by kind of getting past the second stage of activation, where it's very much like lighting a rocket. You know, you light your first stage and you kind of get a slow takeoff. You light the second stage, and when you light that second stage, it's done after that. You can't stop it, right? The only way to do is to end it catastrophically. So Atlantis, Lemuria, and this point where we're at right now in the unfolding, I guess people are starting to call this Terra. We've only been at this point 3 times, but we've been to previous points